Independent Senator Derup Timal, Member of the Board of Governors, University of Trinidad and Tobago, Professor Hollis Liverpool, Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Neil Parasanlal, Chairman of NALIS, President of the UTT, Professor Prakash Prasad, students, faculty, and members of the public, welcome. The University of Trinidad and Tobago is committed to cultural, national, and community outreach. The UTT, under the presence and auspices of the Office of the Vice President, Research, Academic, and Student Affairs, is privileged to host Diwali Celebrations 2020. Even though we are not able to gather as we would normally do for festivals such as these, due to safety precautions amidst this global pandemic, we will be presenting to you a celebration of our culture in this pre-recorded function. I am pleased to introduce to you the President of the UTT and Vice President, Research, Academic, and Student Affairs, Professor Prakash Prasad, to bring greetings.
Thank you, MC Ganeshji, Senator the Honorable Derup Timal, Professor Hollis Liverpool, ORTT, Member of the Board of Governors of UTT, Mr. Neil Parasanlal, Chairman of NALIS, students, faculty, and members of the public, Sitaram. It is with a sense of privilege and honor that I say a few words to you on this holy occasion of Diwali 2020. Now, I know the world is in a state of economic darkness due to the COVID. But there's a saying that the hour before dawn is the darkest. And indeed, we may have difficulty now, but light is coming. Now, Lakshmi Mata, Divine Mother, is that form of God we pray to for riches. Now, people normally think of riches as being tangible. But there's both tangible wealth and intangible wealth. You would have heard of the saying, a fool and his money are soon parted. So if we want to earn wealth, we need to have the right and the requisite qualities to earn wealth. So to have tangible wealth, material possessions, we need to have intangible wealth first. So Mother Lakshmi, Divine Mother, is the giver of both tangible and intangible wealth. At this point of time in the world, that the tangible wealth may seem to be decreasing. Economies are plunging. But if we pray to Divine Mother, if we get the intangible wealth, which is good qualities of hard work, of honesty, of courage, of faith, and faith in God, that we can move forward, we can use our God-given abilities to organize, to work with our fellow human beings, to bring back that light of prosperity. There's no doubt in my mind that we can do that, and that we will do that. In fact, there are some times in Diwali, during years of depression, when things look dark. In our lives also, there are times when things look bleak. But with faith in God and moving forward, we can bring light. And we light the intangible deer of friendship, of cooperation, of understanding the way forward is working with everyone. That is how it's going to be. In fact, that is how Mother Lakshmi appeared when both the Devatas and demons got together. They put aside their traditional hostilities and enmity to work together. And only when they did that, then Mother Lakshmi came forth. So in other words, we here now, at this time, we have difficulty. But if we put our hands together, we work together, then the light of prosperity will come to us. Divine Mother will again enter into our country. We'll see prosperity and light. And that is the message of Diwali, of togetherness, of understanding that to bring light, to bring prosperity, we must work together. So again, Sitaram and Shubha Diwali.
Our first item for this evening is an invocation dance, a Shiva Vandana, composed by Sri Rana Mohip and performed by Srimati Susan Mohip, commonly and affectionately known as Baby Susan. Srimati Susan Mohip is an instructor too in the Bachelor of Fine Arts program at the UTT. Welcome, Srimati Susan Mohip. Senator, the Honorable Dr. Derup Timal, Member of the Board of Governors, University of Trinidad and Tobago, Professor Hollis Liverpool, Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Neil Parasanlal, Chairman of NALIS, President of the UTT, Professor Prakash Prasad, students, faculty, and members of the public, welcome. Our National University of Trinidad and Tobago, the University of Trinidad and Tobago, is committed to cultural, national, and community outreach. The UTT, under the auspices of the Office of the Vice President, Research, Academic, and Student Affairs, is privileged to host Diwali celebrations 2020. Even though we are not able to gather as we would normally do for festivals such as these, due to safety precautions surrounding this global pandemic, we will be presenting to you a celebration of our culture of the pre-recorded function. The next item will be performed by Dr. Ruby Malik. Surmani Dr. Ruby Malik is an exponent of Khayal, Thumri, Tarana, Dadra, and other semi-classical forms. Dr. Malik will be followed by UTT alumni Akash Kal.
Jai Lakshmi Kalyani Maiya Ma Jai Lakshmi
जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी मैया जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी मैया जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी सब आए शरण तिहारी मैया आए शरण तिहारी मैया दे दर्शन महारानी दे दर्शन महारानी जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी मैया जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी तू मंगल में पावन मैया कृपा सदा बरसावे दीन दुखी शरणागत जन के बिगड़े काज सवारे तू अनंत महारानी मैया जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी मैया जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी देव सभी आराधन करते ऋषि मुनि ध्यान लगाते इस नश्वर संसार की प्राणी तेरे कीरत गाते, तू देवी वरदानी मैया, जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी, जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी, जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी मैया, जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी,
जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी, जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी मैया, जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी,
जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी। सब आए शरण तिहारी मैया,
आए शरण तिहारी मैया, दे दर्शन महारानी,
दे दर्शन महारानी माँ, दे दर्शन महारानी,
दे दर्शन महारानी माँ,
दे दर्शन महारानी माँ,
दे दर्शन महारानी माँ, जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी माँ,
जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी माँ, जय लक्ष्मी कल्याणी।
जीवन तेरी शरण, मेरा जीवन मेरा जीवन तेरी शरण, हो मेरा जीवन तेरी शरण, मेरा जीवन तेरी शरण, सारे राग विराग हुए अब, सारे राग विराग हुए अब, मोह सारे त्याग हुए अब, मोह सारे त्याग हुए अब, एक यही मेरा बंधन, मेरा जीवन तेरी शरण, हो मेरा जीवन तेरी शरण। अविरत रहा भटकता अब तक, अविरत रहा भटकता अब तक, भटकूं और अभी मैं कब तक, भटकूं और अभी मैं कब तक, पालूं केवल तुझको ही माँ, पालूं केवल तुझको ही माँ,
केवल तुझको ही माँ,
एक यही मेरी है लगन, मेरा जीवन तेरी शरण, हो मेरा जीवन तेरी शरण। तेरे चरणों पर हो अर्पण, तेरे चरणों पर हो अर्पण, तेरे चरणों पे हो अर्पण, तेरे चरणों पे हो अर्पण। मेरे जीवन के गुण अवगुण, मेरे जीवन के गुण अवगुण, सारी व्यथाएं दूर करो माँ,
सारी व्यथाएं दूर करो माँ,
सारी व्यथाएं दूर करो माँ,
सारी व्यथाएं दूर करो माँ।
ओ कुसुमित मेरा नंदन, मेरा जीवन तेरी शरण, ओ मेरा जीवन तेरी शरण। माँ सारे राग विराग हुए अब, मोह सारे त्याग हुए अब, एक यही मेरा बंधन, मेरा जीवन तेरी शरण, हो मेरा जीवन तेरी शरण। जय जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ,
जय जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ,
जय जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय माँ, जय माँ,
जय जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ,
जय जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय जय माँ, जय जय महालक्ष्मी च विद्महे विष्णुपत्न्यै च धीमहि तन्नो लक्ष्मी प्रचोदयात्। लक्ष्मी मैया उतार तेरी आरती, लक्ष्मी मैया उतार तेरी आरती, बरसा दो माँ कृपा। सबकी नैया दुखों से तू ही तारती, सबकी नैया दुखों से तू ही तारती, सबकी नैया दुखों से तू ही तारती, बरसा दो माँ कृपा। लक्ष्मी मैया उतार तेरी आरती, बरसा दो माँ कृपा। अंधन देने वाली तू ही जग को पाले,
अंधन देने वाली जग को पाले।
दया से तेरी हम सब जीवे, सबको तू संभाले।
दया से तेरी हम सब जीवे, सबको तू संभाले।
लक्ष्मी मैया उतारे तेरी आरती, बरसा दो माँ कृपा। तेरी भक्ति जागे दिल में, निष्दिन करते वंदन। तेरी भक्ति जागे मन में, निष्दिन करते वंदन। तू है शक्ति परमेश्वर की, काटो भव के बंधन।
तू है शक्ति परमेश्वर की, काटो सबके बंधन।
लक्ष्मी मैया उतारे तेरी आरती, बरसा दो माँ कृपा। प्रेम का दीप जला के मैया आरती तेरी उतारें। प्रेम का दीप जला के मैया आरती तेरी उतारें। हे जग ज्योति कष्ट निवारिणी, हर लेना अंधियारे। हे जग ज्योति कष्ट निवारिणी, हर लेना अंधियारे। लक्ष्मी मैया उतारे तेरी आरती, बरसा दो माँ कृपा। शरण तिहारे आई मैया, मंगल कीरत गाए। शरण तिहारे आई मैया, मंगल कीरत गाए। हाथ जोड़ हम विनती करते, चरणन शीश झुकाए। हाथ जोड़ हम विनती करते, हाथ जोड़ हम विनती करते। हाथ जोड़ हम विनती करते, हाथ जोड़ हम विनती करते। चरणन शीश झुकाते। लक्ष्मी मैया उतारे तेरी आरती, बरसा दो माँ कृपा। माँ बरसा दो माँ कृपा, बरसा दो माँ कृपा।
Amidst the Diwali festivities, the University of Trinidad and Tobago is pleased to launch a book by former research fellow of the University of Trinidad and Tobago, Pandita Dr. Indrani Rampasad. Dr. Rampasad has spent over 12 years of intensive academic research in the traditional open-air Ram Leela performance held in Trinidad annually. In Suriname, Guyana, Mauritius, and North India. She has a strong understanding of the implications of UNESCO's declaration of Ram Leela as one of the masterpieces of the intangible traditions of humanity and what it means in terms of innovation and change. Dr. Rampasad studied Asian performance theory in India at New York University under world-renowned performance theorist and Ram Leela expert Richard Schechner. From 2007 to 2009, she designed the world's first certificate course in Ram Leela studies at the University of Trinidad and Tobago that brought together theory and practice for educating and training performers in the Ram Leela art form that was successfully piloted in 2009. She has had scholarly works on Ram Leela, published in international academic journals and encyclopedias. And now to speak about her Ramlila research at the UTT, I now invite Professor Hollis Liverpool, member of the Board of Governors and program leader of the Academy of Arts, Culture, Letters, and Public Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Senator, the Honorable Mr. Dirup Timal, Mr. Neil Parsonal, Chairman of NALIS, Acting President of the University of Trinidad and Tobago, Professor Prakash Prasad, faculty members, students, members of the press, members of the public, a pleasant good day to you. For me, it is a pleasure to be here at this launch of this book by Pandita. Our relationship goes back, way back in 2009 when I joined the University of Trinidad and Tobago. And there I met a number of postgrad fellows doing research, including Professor Brinsley Samaru, Dr. Kim Johnson, Professor Selwyn Ryan, and others, too numerous to mention, Mr. Scott. And as I came in walked Pandita Rampasad, and she came in, I heard, to study the Ramlila of India and Trinidad and Tobago. At the time, I knew very little about Ramlila, even though I went to the University of the West Indies. I knew very little. I had a bit of skating vision or understanding of Ramlila. But with her on board, I began to understand the history of the Ramlila, the designs, the lyrics, the storyline, and she was very strong in trying to remove the ignorance from people of Ramlila. So during the day while we sat at the university, we spoke of Ramlila in the same breath as I was speaking about carnival. Not that Ramlila is carnival, but I was interested in carnival and she there was looking at Ramlila. So our interest grew. And we spoke of Ramlila not in terms of carnival, but we spoke of Ramlila in terms of the Indian resistance to colonial events. Above all, we spoke about Ramlila and that resistance of how young Indians in Trinidad and Tobago could use Ramlila to show the Indian presence in Trinidad and Tobago and indeed the Caribbean. I remember us discussing a book. Title of the book was Rituals, Politics and Power by Professor Kurtzer. And then I found out that she also was taught by Professor Kurtzer in New York. And so we had a common relationship. Well, I found out that Ramlila is the dramatic folk re-entertainment of the life of Rama according to the ancient Hindu epic, the Ramayana, that commemorates the victory of Rama over Ravana. I learned a lot from her. Every day I was picking up here and there, learned a lot from her. And it was taken from the Hindu scripture, the Ramayana. The play shows the happy times, the adversities, the triumph of these adversities, and the purpose of Ram's incarnation on earth. I learned also that Ram's wife provides humanity with valuable lessons and ideals, such as the quality of a son, the quality of a brother, the quality of a husband, the quality of a friend, and indeed, the quality of many people. Lord Ram having won Sita's hand in marriage and defeated the demon who had abducted her. So all these were lessons for us that I learned while she was doing her research. And then we, at the Academy of Arts and Culture and Public Affairs, we were also interested in her writings. So we decided to join with the commission, the Indian Commission here, I should say the Indian Commission, and send her to India, where in India she decided to do more research to look at the Ramlila in India, look at the Ramlila in Trinidad and do her comparisons and all her contrasts and comparisons. So it was a big time for us. I want to congratulate her, congratulate Pandita on this book, because for years she had many challenges, and she persevered. And this is not the first book launch that we at the Academy or here we are doing, but I remember that we did a lot of book launches. If you remember, ladies and gentlemen, you might remember Golconda by Mr. Scott, Selwyn Ryan and his book on entrepreneurship, Professor Samaru and Kim Johnson and his books on the steel band. Selwyn Ryan wrote about the entrepreneurship, and we even launched Dr. Otley's 2 books, etc. I remember the sharing of a culture by Sat Balkaran Singh. We did all these launches. So it's not the first time we launching books. I remember especially that book by Balkaran Naipal, Under the Peepal Tree. We did all those books. And then one of the books that I loved and we did together was that book on Amerindians, where all of us, I spent hours, and I shouldn't say hours, I spent months trying to edit that book on the Amerindians, so that we at the university, we have spent a lot of the time launching and doing publications on books. Ramlila is very, very important. Why it's important? Because for many people don't know that way back in 2005, the Trinidad and Tobago Ramlila was declared by UNESCO as one of the world's intangible cultural heritage of humanity. So when we came in, when I came in, I should say, we began to sponsor a lot of workshops on the craft of Ramlila, and we continued with lectures upon lectures every year. From 2012 right on to up at present, we continued having lectures and lectures on Ramlila, and we felt that with doing so, we saw it as an elevation of Bhojpuri. Finally, let me say, I had forgotten that I wrote the preface to the book, and so let me just quickly read a little piece of what I wrote. I said that this is a very lucid piece of work that demonstrates that Ramlila was writing especially for foreigners. And I said that besides the pictures and drawings of stages and structures for the various theaters in the practice of Ramlilas, Pandita's work is accompanied by a multiplicity of photographs and table data that make for a more meaningful understanding of Indian traditions and the many geographical sites from which they originated and are practiced. Such data not only show the richness of the traditions, but will help the readers to compare sites and stages in India and Trinidad, leading to a better understanding of how these traditions found their way to blossom in Trinidad and on other soils. So the pioneers of the University of Trinidad and Tobago therefore understood the importance of postgraduate research, especially that of our hidden traditions. They sought to bring the work of the outside of the university into the yards of the ordinary people of the community. So Pandita's work, the Ramlilas in North India, will bring new light and a refreshing insight into the communities of the Caribbean and to scholars near and far. Above all, it gives truth to the university's dream, and the university's dream is to bring all the hidden cultures into light. So I want again to congratulate Pandita, and I'm glad that the University of Trinidad and Tobago has taken up the mantle of book launches and perhaps publications. We started it once, but because of finance, we couldn't continue. So, and in fact, right now I have on my desk a book from St. Lucia looking at the chords in the parang. So thank you very much, and I want to thank Pandita again, and I want to congratulate her on her commitment, because I hope that this book will rekindle our efforts for a certificate course, which we are trying to write a certificate course in some of the arts in Trinidad and Tobago. Again, Pandita, thank you, and thank you very much.
And I would now ask Dr. Liverpool, Professor Liverpool rather, to receive a copy of Dr. Ramprasad's book on behalf of the Academy of Arts, Letters, Culture, and Public Affairs. To bring remarks on the book entitled Ram Leela in North India and Mauritius, I am pleased to introduce Independent Senator Derup Timal. Senator Timal is the chairman of Diwali Nagar, and Vice President of the National Council of Indian Culture. Senator Timal.
Professor Prakash Prasad, President of the UTT, Mr. Neil Parasanlal, Chairman of NALIS, Professor Hollis Liverpool, Member, Board of Governors of UTT, faculty of the university, students, and members of the public. It is indeed a special privilege and honor to be asked to present some brief remarks of the book Ram Leelas in North India and Mauritius, written by Pandita Dr. Indrani Ramprasad of Trinidad and Tobago, which was based on the work done as a senior research fellow at UTT, where she conducted research on Ram Leela and Ramdela studies. This book is indeed a significant milestone for both the author and the University of Trinidad and Tobago, as it fulfilled the passion of the author for the Ram Leela arts, as well as the vision of the pioneers of the university to facilitate postgraduate research in the lesser-known or hidden folk cultures of the diverse communities of our nation. In the 16th century, Goswami Tulsidas composed one of the greatest works of Hindi literature, the Ramcharitmanas, an original retelling of Valmiki's Ramayana in Awadhi, the language of the masses of the region of Oudh in India. Tulsidas ji, through his simple yet intuitive and ingenious narrative, successfully weaved the glories of Sri Ram, Mother Sita, the brothers of Sri Ram, Hanumanji, and other notable characters into the hearts and souls of the Hindu masses, clearly portraying Sri Ram as synonymous with the Supreme Being. It was this popular version of the Ramayana that our forefathers brought to this land, since most of them came from the regions of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. It is therefore most fitting that the research for this book was mainly done in the states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, thus realistically making a connection between the performances in these ancestral states with the actual performances of Ram Leela here in Trinidad and Tobago that started as early as the year 1880 at Dow Village in California in central Trinidad. The approach used in this book to present the research findings must be commended. The author clearly establishes the framework for analysis of performances by identifying 5 different stage types used, 3 various styles of performances, and 4 types of abhinay or aesthetics used by the performers. This has no doubt been influenced by her studies at New York University on Asian performance theory relating to India under the performance master, Professor Richard Cheshner. The performances observed by the author in her research at over 20 venues in the states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, and 1 venue in Mauritius, is analyzed and assessed against this comprehensive framework. For the first time, I must say. In Trinidad and Tobago, we would readily relate to the dramatic theatrical style of Ram Leela performed on the proscenium stage, and the most popular open-air Maidan Ram Leela performed where the earth itself is the stage, in community-based productions narrated by the Pandit in Katha style. While it is very clear from the research done by the author is that we can no longer look at Ram Leela as just a play in the normal sense. The book shows that Ram Leela is rather a unique class of performance of a text which is certainly different from the conventional drama presentation, particularly in the open air or Khulla Maidan style. Sri Ram manifests himself and recreates his sport or Leela in all aspects and detail, regardless of theatrical considerations. The Leela becomes an external as well as an internal reality. The performers go through aspects of devotional practices prior to and during the enactment. Periods of asceticism are prominent for mental preparation and physical purity in the life of the volunteer devotees. This extends to all volunteers engaged in the production of the Ramlila, and not only the performers. In fact, it becomes a veritable yajna for the community, including the audience as well. This infuses the Ramlila with an aura of genuine bhakti or devotion, and it is common to see an ecstatic spontaneity in the simple but powerful play of amateur enthusiasts. In an outdoor, open-air environment, taking over the role of the ritual and the katha in connecting with Sri Ram and the many characters of the Manas. The book also mentions the role of the audience who do not see themselves as just spectators, but consider themselves to be the physical presence of the divine, to experience darshan through the form of the divine, whilst enmeshed in a transformative and spiritual experience of Leela. This reminds us that Ramlila cannot only be looked from the aspects of entertainment and the promotion of tourism, but due respect and recognition need to be given to the devotional, spiritual, and community values that shape the performance of the text. I understand that the author, Pandita Dr. Indrani Rampasad, is continuing the field research she started in this book in the Girmitia countries of Guyana, Suriname, Fiji, and of course here in Trinidad and Tobago. And this is indeed welcome. This book certainly contributes to filling a significant gap in research-based knowledge of our community cultural traditions. And both the author and the University of Trinidad and Tobago must be congratulated for the realization of this work. And it is indeed a pleasure for me to officially launch this book, Ramlila in North Trinidad and Mauritius. I thank you.
At this point, we will now hear from Pandita Dr. Indrani Rampasad, author of Ramlilas in North India and Mauritius.
Namaste. And in the tradition of our ancestors, Sita Ram, Ram Ram. That was the greeting of our ancestors, indentured Indian ancestors. We are here today for the release of my book, Ramlilas in North India and Mauritius. This work precedes the substantive work, the research that was done at UTT on Ramlila in Trinidad. It started off first as a study on Ramlila in Trinidad, and then it started to grow, because then I got curious. I wanted to know the source. I wanted to know where did we come from? Where did this tradition come from? And so it took me to India, the roots, North India. And this book was born from that visit, Ramlilas in North India and Mauritius. So how did Mauritius come in? I was there in India at the time, and there was a very cheap ticket to Mauritius from India. that I was able to afford. So I quickly went to Mauritius and got that piece of the research done. The research also goes into Guyana, Suriname, Fiji. So at the end of this, the second book that's going to come out, it would cover, I would have covered the indentured Indian diaspora, Ram Leela in this diaspora. Now, this research was facilitated by the Academy for Arts, Letters, Culture, and Public Affairs at the University of Trinidad and Tobago under the fellowship on Ram Leela, Ramdila Studies that went on from 2007 to 2012. But my research continued after that. I must acknowledge Professor Kenneth Ramchand, who was then Associate Provost of the Academy for the fellowship. Professor Dr. Hollis Liverpool, the Professor of Carnival Arts and Program Professor at the Academy, and Raviji Ravindranath Maharaj, a former governor at UTT, the High Commissioner of India, and the Mahatma Gandhi Institute of India that gave me a grant to visit North India to study the Ram Leela there. Dr. Yogendra Pratap Singh, the director of the Ayodhya Research Institute in India, where research on all aspects of the Awadhi culture or the Ram culture, that path of North India, where all this research is done. And I had some journalist friends that I met who were very helpful. Avinash Kumar, Dharmendra Kumar Gupta, Ashish Kumar Mishra of Bihar, then Vinod Budhan and Mrs. Vidya Budhan, Vicky and Vanisha Budhan of Mauritius, Mr. Jagdishwar Gobardhan, who was then president of the Kisan House, and until recently he was the High Commissioner of Mauritius to India, and Mr. Raghunath Dial of the Rastriya Swayamsevak Sangh of Mauritius, who facilitated my research. Friends, this research, you will not believe, was really done. Mauritius, I knew no one. I knew no one. Then I met friends on the internet, you know, when we are talking on cultural issues and so on, and that's how I made connections. Then I had connections in India that was able to point me to people in Mauritius, for example. As a participant observer in the community in Trinidad in particular, I faced many challenges in data collection, but was able to overcome them all. And it might surprise you to know, while we are talking of COVID-19 and sitting at home and doing things on the virtual platforms, this book was put together via emails. The publisher is in India, and I am sitting in Trinidad. And the chapters would go out, and then they would come back. And so it really wasn't the perfect conditions, but for producing editorial work in particular, but that was one of the challenges. In India, I traveled by cars, by taxis, by trains, and those of you who know North India would know what a challenge that could be, traveling. But, you know, I also traveled in special cars. You know, in India, they have these cars with the little red light at the top, and when they pass by, it's really a big minister or somebody, or the prime minister sitting in it, and I was given a drive in one of those cars on behalf of the ancestors. I was told, enjoy this ride on behalf of the indentured Indian ancestors that left India to Trinidad. So on behalf of you all, I enjoyed that ride. I was feeling a little bad, though, because I wasn't anybody special in the car. But this research looked at the Leela style, what I defined as a Leela style, and the dramatic theatrical style And I'll give you the definition here that both Raviji and I came up with. This open-air Maidani style, which is really what they call the Leela style long ago. Now we call anything performed the story of Ram, we call it Leela. But traditionally, this Leela style is in the open air. And I quote here our definition. The Leela style of performing the sacred narrative of Sri Ram, Ram Katha, as told in Ramcharitmanas, is marked by the Lokadharmi style, realistic and amateur, theater conventions, religious ritual, bhakti, peripatetic movement, and miming conventions. It is a split open-air performance that moves between two values, dharma and adharma, symbolized by Ayodhya and Lanka, and between Vishnu Lok, the eternal abode of Lord Vishnu, and Mother Earth, symbolizing the avatar. The Leela style is uniquely strong in Sattvic Abhinay and mime, and an avenue for darshan, community bonding, and healthy recreation. End of quote. That's our definition of the Leela style. The photos in the book aren't great professional photographs. They were taken by me on the field with my camcorder, documenting and catching moments, historical moments. So I invite you to enjoy them in that spirit. Finally, I want to thank UTT for having faith in me to get this job done. It took a long time. I faced many challenges from 2012 when I stopped being a senior research fellow and my work had to stop. I had to retool myself for the job market, and in between continued my writing and continued my research. So I'm very happy that I was able to carry on with my life and get this research done. The second book is already in the computer, ready to go, so I should be bringing that one out shortly. With that, I say thank you very much for celebrating with me Ram Leelas in North India and Mauritius. Namaste, Sitaram.
We will now present tokens to Professor Prakash Prasad, receiving a book on behalf of the UTT, as well as to Mr. Neil Parasanlal, Chairman of NALIS. Continuing with our cultural program, I now introduce to you the Year 3 students of the Academy for the Performing Arts, accompanied by their teacher and guru, Srimati Susan Mohib, and all Zoom rehearsed item this evening. This item is called Kathak Nrita. It is set in Tintal, music composition by Susan Mohib, musicians Rana Mohib and Prashant Patesa. And ending our Diwali festivities for today, the following two performances will be performed by Sri Rana Mohip, accompanied by Sri Prashant Patesa and Susan Mohip, Srimati Susan Mohip.
हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। तू स्वर की देवी, ये संगीत तुझसे, हर शब्द तेरा है, हर गीत तुझसे। तू स्वर की देवी, ये संगीत तुझसे, हर शब्द तेरा है, हर गीत तुझसे। हम हैं अकेले, हम हैं अधूरे, तेरी शरण हम हमें प्यार दे माँ। हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। मुनियों ने समझी, गुनियों ने जानी, वेदों की भाषा, पुराणों की वाणी। मुनियों ने समझी, गुनियों ने जानी, वेदों की भाषा, पुराणों की वाणी। हम भी तो समझे, हम भी तो जाने, विद्या का हमको अधिकार दे माँ। हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। तू श्वेत वर्णी कमल पे विराजे, हाथों में वीणा मुकुट सर पे साजे। तू श्वेत वर्णी कमल पे विराजे, हाथों में वीणा मुकुट सर पे साजे। मन से हमारे मिटाते अंधेरे, हमको उजालों का संसार दे माँ। हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। ज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। जो तू मिटाना चाहे जीवन की तृष्णा, जो तू मिटाना चाहे जीवन की तृष्णा, सुबह शाम बोल बंदे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्णा। सुबह शाम बोल बंदे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्णा। जो तू मिटाना चाहे जीवन की तृष्णा, जो तू मिटाना चाहे जीवन की तृष्णा, सुबह शाम बोल बंदे कृष्णा 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 सुबह शाम बोल बंदे कृष्णा 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 नाम पावन पावन कृष्णा नाम प्यारा प्यारा जो न बोले कृष्णा कृष्णा जग में वो हारा हारा कृष्णा नाम पावन पावन कृष्णा नाम प्यारा प्यारा जो न बोले कृष्णा कृष्णा जग में वो हारा हारा मन का मिटे अंधियारा बोल कृष्णा कृष्णा मन का मिटे अंधियारा बोल कृष्णा कृष्णा सुबह शाम बोल बंदे कृष्णा 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 सुबह शाम बोल बंदे कृष्णा 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 जिसको मिले ना पेरा सुख का मरम क्या जाने जो न जाए कृष्णा कृष्णा नीति का धर्म क्या माने जिसको मिले ना पेरा सुख का मरम क्या जाने जो न जाए कृष्णा कृष्णा नीति का धर्म क्या माने चाहे अगर उजियारा बोल कृष्णा कृष्णा चाहे अगर उजियारा बोल कृष्णा कृष्णा सुबह शाम बोल बंदे कृष्णा 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 सुबह शाम बोल बंदे कृष्णा 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 जो तू मिटाना चाहे जीवन की तृष्णा जो तू मिटाना चाहे जीवन की तृष्णा सुबह शाम बोल बंदे कृष्णा 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 सुबह शाम बोल बंदे कृष्णा 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 सुबह शाम बोल बंदे कृष्णा 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 Every year, Navratri month inaugurates Trinidad and Tobago with a festive spirit all around. This is a favorite for many, and why not? It brings excitement, enthusiasm, lights up the mood and social gatherings, festive foods, and gives a break for celebrations. However, this year, the coronavirus pandemic seems to have subdued the entire energy. To ensure public safety, there are restrictions on social gatherings and events like Ram Leela, Diwali Nagar, and other Diwali events. It is essential to lay extra emphasis on the following social gatherings and hygiene protocols. However, this year, the UTT went digital and brought you the festivities in the comfort and safety of your own homes.
To all the performers, faculty and students of APA, Rana Mohib, Prashant Patesar, Dr. Ruby Malik, and a special thank you to my dear Year 3 students who have come year after year to support Diwali. To Mr. Katsunari Imai of UTT, Music Technology Program, Corporate Communications and Campus Managers of UTT, Napa, and Point Lisa's campus, our Master of Ceremonies, Ganesh Ramprasad, Chakra Events, for the decor, we extend a hearty and heartfelt thanks to you and to the wonderful team of APA, the dance department, a family that comes together to bring you performances in dance. That's very close to my heart. Thank you. On behalf of the University of Trinidad and Tobago, I wish you a safe and happy Diwali, and may the blessings of Mother Lakshmi enrich you and your entire family. Happy Diwali.